Rally duck.
Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a fuck, that's what they don't understand.
Yo. Now I'm just watching some random videos, mate. What, riding this weekend? Yeah, of course my bike's always ready. What are you on about? Yep, I'm in.
Back again like flu season, I broke records while losing.
Is my bike even ready? Of course it's ready. Born ready. Might have to go check. Ah, bollocks. Yep, definitely need a new one of them. All faithful. Right, let's get you off. It's like wrestling a fucking eel. Oh, bloody hell. Hello. Maybe the poor girl wasn't so ready as I thought, but she is now.
A few moments later.
So lockdowns are easing, COVID's no longer a thing. Maybe. We'll see. But a lot of people are now getting on the fitness regimes. You've heard of Couch to 5k, but I don't run. So what about Couch to 500k? So we'll take an average, distinctly average trail rider who just happens to run a trail riding company and see if we can turn it into a rally rider. We've turned a Harley into a rally bike, but can we turn an Aussie Bogan into a rally rider? That's the real question here.
Yes!
So can we turn an Aussie bogan into a rally rider? Is bogan an insulting term?
Bogan is only insulting for actual bogans.
Not insulting for this one then. So everybody meet Sean.
What's up?
And you tried to claim you're not a bogan.
Yeah! What? Yes!
Look at it, get the mullet flapping. So,
I think I put snot then as well.
Oh mate.
Probably is on you somewhere.
Sean runs big bikes on byways, he can take you on some trail rides. And he rides a 690 which has now been kitted out by, is it Nomad?
Nomad ADV?
Nomad ADV, they've sorted him out with the rally kit. So I'm going to take Sean from trail rider to rally rider, see how we get on. There's going to be some pitfalls, there's probably going to be some crashes, laughs, injuries, potential death. He's been riding on the road for a long time and get him to ride rallies. We'll start off with some training, some basics, we'll go through his stance, what to look for, what not to look for, and then you can follow along through the whole process of getting him from trail rider to rally rider. Couch to 500k starts here.
Yeah. I'll just make noises throughout.
I've seen Sean do a couple of laps just around some trails. The trails are pretty basic. There's a rutty section and then two sort of fire road sections, which he's been enjoying, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
So what I want to do is start from the basics and work the way up. Rallying can be pretty complex. People like to pretend that it's complex, and it's not. But what you do need is some very basic skills on the bike to make it that little bit easier for you. So the first thing we're going to do is look at his position on the bike, and I'll put some clips in and I'll run through where Sean could be improved. First thing we're going to look at here then is the way that Sean's entering the ruts. If you look at the blue arrow, it's showing that his head is down, so he's not having enough time to adjust and predict what's coming up on the ruts. If you then look at the yellow arrow, it's showing that his arms are down by his sides, so his key muscle groups aren't engaged, so he's just making it a lot more difficult for himself just by not being in the right position. This turquoise arrow here then is just showing that he's quite rigid on the bike, meaning that any undulation or bump that he's going to ride through on the rut is going to knock him offline, which you'll see just after this clip. He's having to fight every single input through the bike just from any undulation on the ground. The saving grace here is that there's not a lot of ruts in international rallies. Again, this green arrow is just pointing out that his arms are down by his sides and his head is looking too close to his front wheel, so he's not giving himself enough time to react to anything, and he's also making it harder work for him by having his arms down by his sides. I'm saying it again, but this red arrow is just pointing out that his head position, he's looking too close to his front wheel, but then the green arrow is showing you why it's important to be looking ahead. His eyes are drawn to this transition into the rut, and he instantly goes to the rut rather than looking at any of the other options that are presented to him. So this is why it's important to be having your head up and looking further down the trail all the time. This situation is a pretty common one. It's quite a tricky one, but it's very common, especially on British trails. The blue arrow is showing you the direction that you should want to go. What you want to avoid is crossing in the middle, because as you can see there's a big centre rut, and that will be causing your front wheel to knock offline. But what I'm going to point out to you here is I'll use a red arrow. Sean actually comes into this and then uses the front brake to slow his entry speed. That then causes the front wheel to slide and then causes him to then go towards where the green arrow was and cross that rut, and basically cocking the whole thing up, to put it politely.
previous clip and this clip are just to demonstrate how rigid Sean has been on the bike and how much harder he's having to work. Any little input from the rut into the front wheel or the rear wheel is affecting the bike and then is being directly transferred to him, making the whole process of riding this rut a lot more complex than it needs to be. I want to point out as well, a lot of people find it really difficult to judge the width of a rut or how wide your tyres are, where your tyres are going to be. This clip is just to demonstrate my foot is a size 12, so I think that's a US size 13, a size EU 46, and it is wider than the width of a tyre. If you're walking along the street, you'll know if your foot will fit on something, so it's a good way to gauge how wide your tyre actually is, just by remembering that your foot is wider than it. So if your foot will fit in the rut, your tyre will.
So whenever I'm looking at body position on the bike, I always remember the little nursery rhyme song, whatever we're taught: head, shoulders, knees and toes. Okay, there are a couple little bits extra such as arm position, but we can attribute that to shoulders. But if you remember those 4 things, which shouldn't be hard for you to remember, it does make your life easier. Honest. So Sean's head definitely needs to be looking further up. The further he's looking up, the further he can look down the trail and the sooner he can react to issues that he might see. As you saw when he turned into that section, he picked a relatively bad line choice, I would say, for him, because line choice is relative, it needs to work for you. But even for Sean and his capabilities, that was a bad line choice. If he was looking further down the trail, he could have seen what he was going to ride into. So that's the first one we're going to address. The further the peak is back, therefore upright, the further you can see, the further your horizon is.
I can see.
After the head, that sounds bad.
Shoulder.
It's not just a one-time thing. After that bit, we'll move on to the shoulders. Elbows up, head up, there you go. So that is the stance you'll be looking for sitting and standing, okay? Bent knees. If any of you have skied, it's that sort of stance you're looking for. Lean forward on your boots, a bend in the knee, and then you can react to anything that comes up. Bend in the knee.
When you bend the knee.
I would ask you to stand up, but that's not going to end well for you, is it? Yeah, no. Look out.
He's fucking got pace on as well.
He's shifting, isn't he? He's quicker than you down there, mate.
He's got pace, bro.
Your toes need to be tucked in. A lot of people ride like a duck. Funnily enough, I don't actually agree with that part. So you can see like that, and you want your toe tucked in. Like that, as close as possible. It also helps that your controls, as in your brake and your gear lever, is tucked into the bike. So if your toes are out, you're not going to be touching any controls. Tuck your toes in, everything's easier. So after all that, mate, just go do it, all right?
Oh, yeah. Sorted.
Cheers! It's a very... I fucking hate this guy. It's a wrecking ball, you fucking dick. Obviously, that's a very brief rundown of the basics, but that's what they are. They are basics. If you remember that, it'll improve your enjoyment and your riding on the trail. Obviously, I've gone into it in a lot more depth with Sean, and he's going to be putting that into practice now. But if you remember those, you won't go far wrong.
This is the final clip of the day then, and I just wanted to show you the progress that Sean made throughout the day. I'm not going to obviously document everything, but if you watch this clip, you can see that his head is up, he's looking further down the trail, he's picking better lines for him and the bike, his shoulders are back, his elbows are up, he's also got a bend in the knee and his feet are tucked in. And then the most important one that I'm really the proudest of is that he's allowing the bike to move beneath him and react to the terrain. So it's really, really good progress in a day. Bit of a disclaimer then, just to round things up. Obviously me and Sean know each other. That's not the normal way I would speak to a student that comes to Rally Duck. But he is Australian, so if I was too nice to him, he'd probably think I was trying to take him out on a date, which is, he's just not my style, sorry mate. Couch to 500k is a thing. If you'd like to see more of it, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, drop a comment, all the things that you normally do. And yeah, me and Sean are going to get at it. So as I said in the video, we'll take him from a trail rider, get him to do a couple of British rallies, a couple of the ATRC rounds, a couple of the Rally Moto events, and then hopefully get him abroad to do a European rally. That's the plan. We'll see how it works out. Not many of my plans have worked out at the moment, but we'll have a go.
Rally Duck!